But I'm just so proud of the young bucks because they really represented like what a lot of the old heads kind of got out of it is like, yo, the future's in good hands.
Yeah.
These some solid young brothers. And that was again, that was kind of my just the beautiful piece for me is knowing that the next generation can pass on the torch and do it in a comfortable manner because we got some sharp young bucks in play, man. They ain't no average Joes by any means.
I never grew up with educators that look like myself. So I
100.
feel like honestly, like we are that new wave that make being wise, being smart, being educated cool, right?
Absolutely.
Wisdom is a powerful tool, but oftentimes we might neglect it because of who it's coming from. You feel me? But if we can chop it up with a young buck and really implant a seed, man, like it's more than just education at that point. You know what I'm saying?
What's going on, beautiful people? This is the Let's Grow Together podcast, where diverse individuals and communities come to serve, connect, and grow in areas that they're most passionate about. Brother Marcus, man, we back again. Another episode. Man, nothing much, man. Same old same. Business is booming. Programs are good. Family is good, man. I'm really excited about this conversation we having today. So, man, let's get into it. How you doing, brother?
All is well. All is well. Another beautiful day. My parents came in town, so it's good to always see the squad back in hosting duties. So yeah, it's good. But yeah, transitioning to the conversation, man, we just had our old heads versus young buck forum, and when I tell you that joint was so powerful, hearing some of the old heads and hearing some of the young bucks have uh, counter perspectives, but being able to blend together over time and hear the next one's out. And my favorite portion of it was we actually played the beginning. We did something kind of similar to Four Corners, where essentially individuals went to four corners of the room. Corner one represented yes 100%, corner two represented yes 50%, corner three represented no 50%, and corner four represented no 100%. And essentially, what we did is we would ask situations and forms. So we asked something along the lines of, say you just got out of a hot box with your partners. While you're walking home alone, you noticed in the curb or in the alley, there's a cop handling a young black man in a very rough fashion. Would you stop and intervene, or would you keep walking home? Right? And for most people, that's kind of a conflict of interest almost to an extent. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to hear some of the old heads say, you know what, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna fight the system. And the young bucks like, hey, I'm trying to make it to see tomorrow. So just hearing the generational gaps and the thought process behind it was, man, just mind boggling. But it was so phenomenal. Man, my pops, like I told you, he came down, he was on the panel. So
Okay,
this
that's
was the
love.
first time he was yeah, this was the first time he was able to interact with Roots in a specific workshop or real talk session, and he was able to be a panelist, man. So hearing his thoughts, and then also letting him hear some of our young bucks and hearing how things were so different and just unique, man. It was just a phenomenal experience, bro. I will ever hold on to it.
Man, that's real, man, because I love just the dialogue, right? Because there are certain generational gaps, right? Where the perspective is, like you said, a lot of the young bucks like, man, I just want to make it home. But then you got some of our more seasoned people that's like, yo, I would definitely intervene. But I also think, man, some of our younger people, like they would take their phone out and record that moment. I feel like a lot of
Mhm.
times like that's their way of intervening versus actually getting in trying to break something up or even like trying to get some help, you know what I mean? Because at the same time, like, just be real, like in the heat of the moment, like nobody's gonna jump in there and really try to break that up, you know what I mean, to be real, because we don't want to
Mhm.
become the next statistic. So that's real, man. But kind of talk about some of the differences. I know you talked about well, really talk about some of the questions, some more of the scenarios that you were asking, because I'm interested in knowing some more of that.
Yeah, so that was one. I think that was probably the most jarring one that got a lot of
Yeah.
unique responses. Another one was uh, say you have a long term friend that is married to his wife, but word around town is he is being unfaithful, and you know that this is true. One day his wife calls you out the blue, like, "Hey, brother, can you confirm this?" Hysterically, right?
Hmm.
Again, 90% of the room went to no, I ain't snitching, I ain't telling. But we had a few brave folk that were on the opposite side,
Yeah.
and when they explained their logic, one who was 100% yes, he actually was in a room with his brother-in-law, and he
Yeah. Yeah.
explained it. Hey, that's my dog, but if
Yeah.
he cheating on my sister, I'm snitching, I'm telling. And again, that was understandable, but that was something we were able to laugh about. But that was a real life experience, as one of them had recently experienced that with somebody within their network, and it
Right.
actually severed the relationship of them because they were transparent with the wife to communicate that. Um, Another question that we had asked was something along the lines of, say you recently got promoted to a chef in a restaurant, and you noticed that the head chef was spitting in the food, coughing in the food, or stepping on the food of rude customers, right? Would you risk your promotion as far as telling on him, or would you just let it ride for the time being? Again, that was another unique answers, because we had people
Yeah.
kind of all on all sides of the room. We had somebody who had actually experienced this, but come to find out the person who did it was their cousin. So they
Mm.
didn't want to tell their cousin, but they pulled their
Yeah.
cousin aside and had conversations. But again, a lot of good conversation. The last one that we asked was something along the lines of, if your partner got pregnant and told you they were prepping to have a baby, and you always wanted to have a baby to be the father that you never had, right? Would you support their decision in wanting to get an abortion in the third try
Hmm.
or in the second trimester, something of that nature? And you'd be surprised, man. A lot of people were like, "Yeah, I would support." While we had a lot of other people like, "Hey, well, this situation happened to me. I wasn't fond of it. I didn't want to do it, but ultimately, we couldn't force her to be a mom and things of that nature." So, again, man, it just made for a lot of conversation, almost to the point where we kind of had to hush everybody to pivot to the next topic.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
goal was to stir the pot, to have that initial conversation, so that as they sit down and ate dinner, now they're sitting with people that they didn't necessarily agree with, so they could hash it out and still hear each other's perspectives.
Man, that's dope, man. I appreciate that opportunity for y'all gave them to like even have further conversation afterwards. Because I know a lot of times in these type of forums or these settings, like you may ask the panelists a question, but not really have an opportunity to like dive as deep as you would like to, because there's a time limit and there's so many questions that want to be asked. So I love the idea of, all right, let's sit down after this and let's break bread and let's talk about this a little bit deeper. That's dope. But did you find that, although there were older folk and younger folk in there, did you find that some of them had more similarities than differences?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the things we noticed. In the beginning, we noticed there was old heads here and young bucks here just based on certain
Mm-hmm.
questions. But as we continued to do a deeper dive, everything got even more blended. And we saw that a lot of the more like soft spoken characters were in the same group consistently. And
Yeah.
those who were a little bit more, outspoken, they tended to be the polar opposites. So kind of like the alpha male old head, the alpha male young buck, they were kind of going back and forth. But the question in regards to the hotbox and the police situation, all the alpha males were in the situation. Hey, I would stop it. I would do
Yeah.
some form of, if it's phone, if it's say something to the cop, anything of that nature. So that was very interesting for us as well too. But then following that, so we set that up in the form of just, as I mentioned, four corners. So that was kind of like the icebreaker. From there, we ate, and then we closed out with the panel. And within the panel, we had three old heads and we had three young bucks. And some of the questions we asked there is like, what does it mean to be a man? Bro, when I tell you the answers that we got, and it was so, I don't think anybody could have pinpointed what we were gonna hear. And a lot of people attacked it from different perspectives. Excuse me. From different perspectives. Hey, that soul food was good, my boy. Let me stop. But one of the responses I got that really stood out to me was somebody who was resilient, somebody who was going to maneuver through it all, and somebody who is dependable, where everybody can depend on. And then that also pivoted us to the next question in regards to like, who do you call when you're stressed? And I noticed that a lot of like the man masculine questions, people could be we were quicker to answer.
Mm.
But the deep thought, kind of like the when's the last time you cried? Who do you lean on in times of when things get uncomfortable? Like everybody was kind of like that gasp in preparation to answer the questions. And we got real deep, man. We got real heavy. But I'm just so proud of the young bucks because they really represented like what a lot of the old heads kind of got out of it is like, yo, the future's in good hands.
Yeah.
These some solid young brothers. And that was again, that was kind of my just the beautiful piece for me is knowing that the next generation can pass on the torch and do it in a comfortable manner because we got some sharp young bucks in play, man. They ain't no average Joes by any means.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you said that because a lot of times like people will see these young kids and just think something automatically, but you got to realize like these kids idolize the rappers, the NBA players, and you know there's a certain image, so they might look like that, right? But I love the fact, like you said, man, the young bucks talk to these old heads, and the old heads was like, man, the future's in young hands because I mean in great hands because they had these conversations where they're actually like, man, what do you think? What are your thoughts on these areas? Like, what are your thoughts about being a man? And like you said, like to hear some of the things that they were saying, like I know, because I think about some of the young bucks we talked to, and I had mentioned one of the recent sessions we had. We were asking like, what does freedom mean to you? And
Mm.
bro, the answers that we were getting, it was just so. It was a little bit of everywhere, but the one of the most consistent things is just people saying like, being able to be authentically myself. And these were young bucks saying this, and I was like, man, like I feel when you're younger, you got more freedom than us adults. And they were like, no, I gotta listen to my parents. Da 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 da. I'm like, well, that's one aspect of freedom, which you know is correct. And then some of the older folks were like, well, like just the freedom to just travel. He was, you know, and then we had some people from some other countries that share some perspective on freedom. And so, man, it was just super interesting. But it's just one of those things, like you said, it's like we won't really know like what the other person is thinking until we have those conversations. And a lot of times, although we are older or younger or from this place or that place, it's more similar than we think, or we're more
And that's
similar
why
than we think.
But that's why it's vital just to create that safe space, man. Because what I found is, man, everybody following the session was just so appreciative. Like
Yeah,
everybody, so many people, yo, I needed this, man. I didn't know it was gonna be like this, and just things of that nature. Like it's almost unaccustomed for us to be in a safe space where we can be vulnerable and transparent. And man, there was so much more that came out of it. We'll touch on. But one question I didn't get to ask that I wanted to, well, I meant to ask, but I want to save directly for you is, um, what specific components are mandated for somebody to be a part of your inner circle?
and that's a really good question. Um, the first thing that I think, man, you have to be loyal. And what I mean
Mm.
by loyal is just loyal to the goal, loyal to the ambition, loyal to me. Like I know a lot of times, you know, in mafia movies, they're like, "Do you want fear? Do you want respect? Or do you want loyalty?" You know what I'm saying? And for me, like it's gonna be loyalty every time because, like even the question where you said, "Hey, if my if I see my sister's boyfriend cheating, like what, like that's loyalty, right?" Because to me, the very first thing that I think in a situation, like although like you are my homie, like we hang out, like my loyalty is to my sister. Like that's my blood. Like this is my family. Like so to me, like you have to be loyal. For me, like you have to be ambitious. Like you gotta have somewhere that you're aiming to go, and it doesn't even have to be necessarily in alignment of what I have going on, right? But you gotta have some type of goals and ambition, right? You can't just be around me, leeching off me, like man, I see you, bro, doing your thing. No, like I need you to be doing your thing too. And those are just two things that I think of top of mind, but I really do think that as people we shouldn't be so quick to just be like, oh, that's my friend, like that's my, you know what I'm saying, like we shouldn't be so quick to just invite people. And I think far more than we like to think, that's what happens. Like you meet a person, y'all link, y'all connect, y'all vibe, and y'all like, man, that's bro. And then you just start pouring your heart out to this person, or you just start moving around with this person, and you realize like that person ain't really got much to offer me, or that person isn't really ambitious or doing things that I really align with. But you don't know that based off the first experience. So
You gotta get date the person, right? And obviously not in an actual relationship. But
yeah,
one of my mentors on the panel is what he always says. Anytime there's some fugazi components that come in play, he's like, well, "How long did you date him for?"
yeah,
I'm like, well, damn, I did only know bruh for like 2, 3 weeks, right? So it's like he was spot on with that, and that's one thing that he overly emphasizes, and we talked about. But it's interesting. You said your two, because my two are very very similar.
hmm,
I would say something along the lines of solid and hungry, right? To
yeah,
be a part of my inner circle, you got to be solid. You got to stand on the same morals, the same foundation, same principles, and if not the same, very like minded in that regard. And you got to be hungry, right? There's going to be times and opportunities where I'm pouring into, but I like to be poured back into as well. Has to be able to reciprocate and things of that nature. And then again, just hungry because they like, bro, I'm hungry. I got a vision, and I don't like people around me who are not in a similar position or have that same drive, motivation associated with them. So I definitely agree. And it's funny because me and you would have ended up in a lot of same corners, and that's one thing that I was thinking about upon kind of recapping prior to this. But I noticed upon doing the four corners and people sitting down, they gravitated to people who were in their corners more consistently. So it's
Yeah.
almost like a hypothesis that I had originally, and I noticed a lot of people. There was probably two groups that was brand new people who nobody knew each other. The rest of them sit with their kind of, I don't want to say their squad, their team, but individuals they associate with just in the community anyway.
Yeah.
And I was very intentional about splitting them up after in the midst of networking and sending people to go talk to different people. So it amazed me that even throughout the conversation and the engagements in which we did, we still fall back into our things that we're accustomed to, our people we already know, have those relationships with. It's cool to have a quick little networking piece, but I'm right back in my quote unquote village. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that I'm going to continue to work to overcome.
Yeah, bro. I just think about, again, like it's a lot of similarities in how we run some of our programs. I don't know what it's called, but it's like this line game where you start off in the middle, like everybody's in the line in the middle, and we'll give two scenarios where we like, man, do you like hot or cold? People go on whatever side, and then we'd be like day or night, go on each side. But then we start asking like deeper questions, right? Be like, I can't even think of one of the questions, but the more that you continue to do this, right, you start to see like, oh man, I got way more in common with these people because like we circle up in the beginning, and what we try to do is say, all right, sit next to somebody you don't know. But of course, the first thing that people do is, oh, I'm next to my friend, like immediately. But like, because we want you to like pay attention, and you more likely to pay attention if your friend not right next to you joking and playing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we try to
Mm-hmm.
separate you. So, but what ends up happening is we'll do an icebreaker. We'll ask somebody like, man, what's your favorite superhero? And again, super childish question, something very simple, and they can tell you real quick what it is. But as those things go around, and then of course, bro, when the younger the kid, like everybody got a joke, right? But it's like when it's your turn and you really like explaining why, you really get to thinking like, dang, that's super dope. And the reason that I say this to say is that, like, bro, like when we really start asking these questions and we get in this space, like we don't realize how how much of an outlet it is for people, right? Like we don't
Mm-hmm.
realize how we got inner circles that of people that we trust that we could be vulnerable with that give us dope ass advice, but not everybody has that. So I just want to kind of pivot a little bit going into kind of the next portion is like how was the aura in the room like when you because you mentioned when you were talking about those more deeper conversations, like a lot of people were hesitant, but like how did the men like handle like dealing with emotions in the space, like how was that?
Mm-hmm. I got one even better for you. So one,
Mm-hmm.
I asked my dad. Again, he's never been to a session, so everything. The biggest piece of feedback he got was that everybody in the room was so genuine, and nobody. There was a generally a judgment free zone where everybody really wanted the best for each other. It
Yeah.
was literally and probably about 38 grown black men. Again, we had ranging from Justin is 19 to Carl that's about 62. So
Okay.
again, a very, very wide range of individuals. But one of the questions that kind of took the air out the room, but like it was necessary, was abuse in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But it was women physically abusing men.
Mm.
And again, even when like the first so essentially, how it flowed is I had a few questions that I asked the panelists, and then we opened it up to the room. So some of our executive team members hopped in, some of the audience hopped in, and that was one thing that was addressed: is how does the collective cope with being physically abused by their one physically or emotionally, what I'm saying, abused by their partner. And it was extremely interesting to know that abuse is very predominant in a lot of relationships, where a lot of women are either physically abusing their partner or physically doing it as well. And it was very interesting because a lot of the men who were getting physically abused were just depressed. They were just mentally not there to the point where it's like, I don't have any energy to fight back. And again, a few individuals who have experienced it and overcame it were able to shed some light and give some insight on why you need to make an adjustment and how to go about making an adjustment. So again, it was real like a each one teach one, like
Yeah,
collective development session.
bro. It's crazy that you say that because imagine how much you have to put your pride aside to be
Yeah.
in a room full of men and say, man, I ain't gonna lie, like my girl used to like abuse me, like, and I know I was gonna say like she used to beat me, like, but most men probably wouldn't say it like that, but that's a hard pill to swallow. But what's interesting is that, man, I think more often than not, it's more of the emotional side of the abuse that
Mhm.
occurs that people don't see, and it's like I truly believe like it's a lot of men that suffer in silence about it. So to even have
Mhm.
a space where people were like having a conversation about it and being open, vulnerable, and giving advice for people, the people that have experienced it, like man, that's powerful because like I personally, have never experienced that, but I have seen people that go through it, and to me, it's just like mind boggling. Like, how could you not just move around? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how could you not just get out the
Yeah.
situation? And so, just to see that with people that I know and care about, and so it's just like for y'all to like, and they don't even like ask for, what I'm saying? Like, but I see it happening. Like, they don't even have conversations about it. So to be in a space with like complete strangers, bro, that's powerful. So kudos to
Yeah.
y'all. Kudos to y'all. Um,
Definitely.
but man, like so what was your biggest takeaway? Like just being obviously like the host and the facilitator, but like what was like your biggest takeaway as you're just like just involved and just taking everything in?
I mean, I realize everybody deals with stress drastically different.
Mm,
For me, I realized the importance of generally caring about my mental health, generally caring about my physical health, and then being able to separate. What I mean is, we talked a little bit about the importance of vacations. When we think about vacations, on average, traditionally, it's our wife or our girlfriend or our counterparts like, "Hey, let's go somewhere," right?
that's
On
real.
average, it's not like the men like, "Hey, let's go spend this money and go somewhere." We like we could be stacking that and investing that somewhere else. But one of the gentlemen who was there, his grandma recently passed away and was very very close to him, and it was very heartbreaking for him. Another gentleman that was there, his dad just got shot like 5 times and just
Mm,
murdered just recently as well too. But one thing that we realize is oftentimes us as men, we try to bury it in our subconscious by just getting back to work, by just hustling. And both of them were able to express that they needed to take time for themselves. And what their time looked like was a little bit different. But every individual, from a male to a woman to anybody, whenever you're going through something, you need to take time to one, deal with it, and then two, work to mourn, cry, so however you get through it. And last but not least is that overcoming phase. And oftentimes that's deconnecting to reconnect, right? A lot of times that may mean taking a trip, traveling, going somewhere, or doing something that you love to put you back in your, positive state. And again, the brother who we were talking to, whose grandma recently passed away, he leveraged some form of like a care act, something on a federal note where he was able to take a month away from work, still get paid, and be able to take a vacation with his family just to kind of refresh. And it was beautiful because me and Kyra actually in the midst of planning a cruise, but it wasn't because I wanted to do it. It
yeah,
was because
yeah,
she wanted to do it. So it was so
yeah,
spot on to hear it as well too. But know that it's necessary, man. Because again, bro, we grind, we get it in, and what we do is daunting, it's taxing, it's draining. So again, being able to really fill your cup back up is going to be beyond vital as you continue to grow and elevate. And ironically, today I went to the doctor again. Took my blood pressure, everything looked good, but was talking about like cholesterol and all these other components, and I'm realizing that, bro, you only got one life, my guy.
yeah,
Like you need to put different elements in play right now to bring about the desired result. And for me, that's living old enough to see my grandkids, my grandkids, if I'm blessed to, and things of that nature. And oftentimes, our habits aren't in alignment with that. So that was probably my biggest takeaway. Just be more intentional where I'm at now, 27, getting ready to be 28, but start thinking in preparation for 58, for 68, right? All again, I'm a young. I ain't even gonna call myself a young buck. I'm a mid buck. Is the terminology, right?
hey,
But
like what, Jacob? We the middle children at this point, man. We
you
right there in
feel
the
me,
middle, brother. We right
you
there in the
feel
middle.
me. But what I'm doing now as a mid buck is gonna define how my old head years are gonna be spent.
Man, that's real, bro. You said so much, man. I just think back to like when my grandfather passed, man. I was just so like literally went back to work the next day. Like didn't even
Hmm.
miss a beat. Like he literally passed one day. I went back to work the next day, and I didn't realize the effect that it was having on me. Like, and it's funny. Like I don't know how many stages of grief that there are, but there's a reason that is multiple stages of it. You got to
Hmm.
go through each stage of it. For you to really get past that, I feel like, and sometimes even when you go through all of that, you still don't get past it. But I think more than anything, you just you have to like allow that to happen. But like you said, like man, you sometimes you really gotta like take some time away. And
Mm.
I think most jobs like, and it's dope that your guy found something federal like that he was able to tap into that allowed him to do that. But I was just gonna say like most jobs don't even give you enough time to actually like really get back to where you need to be as productive as you can. But man, to the vacation point, like you 1,000% right, bro. I wouldn't travel if my girl wasn't like, man, we should go here or do this. And it's interesting though, man. We actually just got connected with a young woman that man, she's been taking kids out the country for the past couple years. And she now says like, man, hey, I got grant money. I need an organization that has some kids. So we're looking to take a group of kids to Colombia literally next month, bro. Um,
Come on.
and hold on, I gotta hit that,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah.
Gotta hit the button, bro. But then we also looking to take a bigger group in August, and just to tell you how blessed like we are doing the work that we do. Um, like fingers crossed, man. But I'm affirming it. I went ahead and put in an application to get my passport, put in the expedite, expedite and everything. So when the passport come on time, I'll be in Colombia next month too. So we gonna
Yeah.
hit another one of those too. But the opportunity came
Yeah.
about something crazy, and we actually like, bro, we gonna be out there with y'all. For that weekend, literally come back for 2 days, and then we gonna be leaving, going back out to, to head back out to Colombia. So it's crazy. So
Mm,
but just
mm.
just talking about travel like that came just spare of the moment, and it's funny because I told my girl like she was just like man she was so excited for me because she know I don't really travel like that, but like just saying what you like you were saying like bro we gotta really like just really disconnect man, really go see the world and really man just absorb other cultures, like really get to learn other cultures too, bro. I think that's most important because recently a lot of our circles that we've been having, bro, it's been super international, bro. And
Mm.
it's been really teaching us about the different cultures and how like man they not really different, but how all these other countries got so many untapped resources that we really don't hear about or know about, and something about the abuse that's happening in some of these countries. So man, it's just dope because now I'm at a point like I want to travel for business, for pleasure, but really just necessity, man. I feel like it's just so much knowledge out there. You know what I'm saying? And you got to go to some of these places to get it. Like online don't do it justice.
Mm. Hey, kudos, man. That's huge, bro. Definitely take some time for yourself while you out in Colombia. When we was in Mexico, one thing I was just reflecting on is just how good we got it, man. Like places like that will humble you to an extent. You will
Yeah.
see everything for the tourists. You'll go to the corner, you will see a wall with trash, homeless people, and again, really, really see a whole nother side of living. So,
Yeah.
nah, that's beautiful, man. I pray you all enjoy every bit of that. Safe travels to y'all family. That's gonna be a
Yeah.
great time, man.
Bro,
Um, one other
I'm
thing,
excited. I'm excited.
you should be, you should be. One other thing that I got from the session though was a lot of old heads just kept saying, "Be present, be present." Uh, my OG Carl, matter of fact, we need to have him on because he got a lot of wisdom, man. But he was telling me he one of the questions was along the lines of, "Is there a such thing as a father who's present but that is absent? And if so, have you experienced that? And how did that impact you?" And man, like, bro, this took everybody back to like a little boy state. And
Yep.
man, just the response and the vulnerability that came from it. And again, my OG Carl, he mentioned something along the lines of he was so focused on the bread and the work that even in the midst of one of his children being born or something, he was focused on going right back to work, or he was spending time at the bar or doing things where he wasn't as visible as he would have liked to be in his kid's life, and he missed out on a lot of it. And I thought it was interesting to say that this man is a good 40, 50 years older than me, but I experienced the same thing as well too.
Yeah.
So a lot of things are just ingrained in our mentality that we got to go get it. We got to be the provider, but we aren't always as present because of that. So again, the whole time he was talking, I was just resonating with him, learning that I had the same experience, but I learned it way earlier than he did as well too. So yeah, it was a lot of good conversation, man. But those are probably my two biggest takeaways, I'd say.
No, it's crazy, man. I tell the people this story about my dad all the time. Like, I grew up knowing exactly who my dad was. He just wasn't like actually present in my life, but I knew exactly who he was. Like me and him got the
It's like you
same name.
saw him, like
Bro,
you could point him out. You passed.
saw him all like, bro, he was like man, I'm telling you, like I got one of those stories, bro. Like at some point I'm gonna write the book, man, but the story not complete, so it's hard for me to write the book. But when I tell you that like my story is one of them stories like you can make a movie off of, and you be like, damn, that's a crazy ass movie, but like really happened though. Like my dad, bro, I knew this guy, like I literally knew who the guy was, but he would still come to like family functions. So like I would see him and they're like, yeah, that's your dad. But the crazy thing is like he ain't come like, hey son, and none of that. Like so he ended up marrying another woman while he was still married to my mom. Bro, it was crazy. And
Oh
basically
wow.
he married basically an older woman that had money. And basically I don't know if this to be true, but what I believe from my perspective is that he married her for her money. She had some properties in Chicago. He was able to live at one of the properties for free. She ended up unfortunately passing away, and he pretty much inherited the property, from her. And it was a couple disputes with some of the family. But the point that I bring all of that up is like that was happening, and he would come to the family functions, but like wouldn't say nothing to you. Like this was his side of the family, you know what I'm saying? But we at the function, I see him. So the reason I bring that up, and it's not really relevant to your point, but I get the fact because I love the type of dads that I have in my circle, bro. Like Cody, Chuck, bro, they phenomenal dads, bro. And it's just like it makes me even more anxious, not anxious, but like the good kind, right? To be a dad because I'm like, bro, I got so many resources around me that I could just tap into. And I always think back to my parents and I'm like did they have the appropriate tools to raise children? Like did they have the tools? And it's not that maybe they didn't have the resources, but were they equipped? You know what I'm saying? Like were they taught a certain way? Because that's really the perspective that I have now. Because it's just like, bro, as I develop, like you say, talk about healthy habits and cholesterol and making sure that we live to see our kids grow. Like I start thinking about the habits that I have and the tools that I'm acquiring and the knowledge. So it's like now I know what I'm passing down to my kids. So I always try to give grace to the elders. Like I don't know what tools that they had, and to see the outcome, how their kids turned out. Like I don't think it's all on them, but that was a phenomenal question that Carl asked, bro. Like, have you ever met a present dad that was absent? Like, like that's tough,
Hmm.
but it's real.
Yeah, make you think, man.
Yeah,
Literally, man, it just kind of took the air out the room. Like, dag, huh? Everybody was reflective. But to your point, I think really being selfless and putting that ego aside was the biggest thing just for that whole room to really be impacted, man. And literally, man, we had people from all walks of life, all different type of incomes. We had some hustlers. We had, again, man, we had a very diverse room, and everybody really got something out of it because they leaned into the process. And I was just so happy because literally, man, this that event had been in my mind for like 2 years, bro, and some
yeah,
change, like for real. And I saw it in so many different formats. But again, for my dad to be present within it as well, man, and like just the love, the kudos that came after, the fact that we was able to kick it. And literally, man, it sparked a lot of internal conversation for us too.
yeah,
We talked about a lot of things that we ain't discussed, you know what I'm saying,
yeah,
prior to. So it just opened up the floodgates for just building and developing. And it really set a new precedence for a lot of relationships that day. There was actually a young brother who brought his child there too. Well, I wouldn't say his child because he was like early college, but he was a young man as well. And it was so interesting to see a parent and a child in two different groups. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
they're raised in the same, like the
yeah,
same habits, the same household things of that nature, but they were divided as well. And I know they had some interesting conversations on the way back, but
yeah.
that's the whole objective of it, man. So it was very successful.
Bro, we had some twin sisters. Like we had some twin sisters, and we were asking these questions, and we saw twin sisters on two different sides of a couple situations too.
Mm,
So, but I love that because it gives us diverse learners, diverse conversations, right? Isn't like now you can
mhm.
like pretty much argue the opposing view versus just having one perspective. And I think through that discourse, I think you then become a better person in general. But man, I think it was something else that I wanted to ask you about, man. It was a topic about I think how can protectors get protected?
Mm, mm.
Yeah,
Then that I think that kind of goes hand in hand with like the abuse component. Oftentimes, those who are working to protect and kind of shield other people take on the blunt force, right?
Yeah.
And I think the verbal or physical abuse is just like a parallel or example of that's one specific way. In the conversation, we realized that, well, a lot of people, when they gave their recap of what a man is, they mentioned selfish, putting themselves aside, and really kind of taking prioritizing everybody else to the point where they're kind of get what's left. And a lot of the old heads was like, "Yo, young bucks, like, no, not to say always put yourself first, but there's certain situations you have to weigh out. And essentially, at the end of the day, if you're gonna get the lesser of the two, sometimes you need to step up for yourself as well. Because oftentimes, what we do as a man is always kind of take the back burner. Yeah, there's some things we're a little bit more vocal about, but when wife is set in her ways, she want to do this, we're gonna let it ride every time. And oftentimes, there could be situations where whenever you have an outburst, it's because things weren't said or addressed on the front end.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to be more intentional about protecting different, things that we hold near and dear in relationships. Because a lot of relationships, people kind of find themselves getting lost, working to kind of be the glue to hold things together, opposed to letting things go at certain points in times.
Yeah, a lot of times, like I said earlier, like people will stay in certain situations way longer than they need to because, like, whatever reason it is, they see value in it, and they just realize, like, sometimes they just can't let go, man, for whatever reason. But I do feel like, man, as people, man, the people that are putting their neck out on the line for other people, they do need some type of protection, or they do need somewhere that they can go and relax, or someone they can talk to. But I think sometimes it's difficult, especially as a man. A lot of times, like you said, how we were raised, like we just have to go out and get it. We shouldn't necessarily talk about our emotions. Um, and it's tough, bro. But I think at the end of the day, like when we find outlets like that, when you find people that's in your close knit circle, bro, I think that's the way to go. But I also, man, again, kudos to y'all for having the old heads versus young bucks, because I think just having a group of men and young men in the same space, bro, that's so powerful because some of those guys didn't have dads. You know what I'm saying? And some dads wish they were better, better fathers. So I think just giving them an opportunity to give game and give wisdom and just bro, like that interaction is priceless. Because I see how it is when we have our circles, and it's like, bro, we learn just as much from those old heads as they are learning from
Mm-hmm.
us. Because again, like we are seeing the world from a different lens. They don't see it the way that we see it. So again, like having forums and situations and conversations like this, bro, is super priceless, man. Like, and I gotta give y'all kudos for doing it and making a successful event.
Now we appreciate it, man. There was a lot of hands on deck to make it shake. Uh, Last little piece before we pivot though. My executive team is used to whenever we host our sessions, we're used to leveraging some of the college students to actually like serve the food and do things of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
nature.
yeah,
One of our executive team members, I was kind of gathering them as we closed out, like, hey, let's get ready to start serving the food. Bro, I was like, no, 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 we finna get the young bucks. I'm like, nah, bro, like today we gonna serve them. We gonna show them how to mid bucks hold it down, and we had a little bit of a debate right there, but it was all play. It
yeah,
was all
yeah,
fun.
yeah,
But oftentimes, man, like the servers need to be served
yeah,
and vice versa. And that's just one thing. Like that's the biggest microcosm that I got from old heads versus young bucks. Like one side feeling they deserve something and the other one's not. Let's make sure we just break bread more intentional, man. Let's be a little bit more selfless. Let's make sure we communicate effectively so the other
yeah,
side understands why we feel the way we do. And at the end, we actually closed out with some stats. And this was the biggest piece that I wanted to get from it. Man, it was a bunch of stats. Something along the lines of kids are 4 times more likely to be incarcerated without a father in the household. Um, Kids are 3 times more likely to be abused sexually or physically without having a father. Like, man, when I tell you, bro, the stats were like jaw dropping, man. And essentially, that was the whole point of having the forum. One, to bridge the gap. Two, to be able to hear the other side's perspective. But three, to collectively step up as a whole male division to do better and be more present on a consistent basis. Because if not, these are the stats that we're opening up the next generation to if we're not present and doing the role in which we were created to do.
man, that's powerful, bro. That's so powerful, man. But man, let's go ahead and pivot, man. As we close out, man, please, please, please like, comment, subscribe, share, man. If y'all got any value from this, man, please send this to somebody that you think can get some value from it. Man, please follow myself, J Turner 0121. the foundation, A Grade a Good Foundation. Um, Tap in also with the podcast page at Let's Grow Together Pod everywhere, everywhere, everywhere.
Also, you can follow myself at mastermind underscore Marcus and the Roots Mentoring to stay connected with all the events coming up so we can continue to build. And as always, family, let's continue to grow together. Let's get it.
Yes, sir. Peace out.